Hi, my name is Homer Erickson. I have the privilege of being the Dean of the Neely School of Business here at TCU, and what a great day to be in Fort Worth, Texas. We probably should have a moment of silence for people in Minnesota and Chicago and New York and all, but I guess we're going to have one of those 80-degree spring days in Fort Worth, but in February. So it's great to be here, and I want to thank all of you for coming this morning. This is going to be a great morning, for sure. I want to first start and just thank our sponsors. This is a very important series for us, and we're able to bring very special people to the business community and for our faculty and students, but we couldn't do it without our sponsors. So as you know, our platinum sponsor for years has been Frost Bank, our gold sponsor, Fort Worth Business Press, our silver sponsor, Cowgirl Innovation and the Balcom Agency, and our bronze sponsors, Lindbeck and Acme Brick. Please join me in thanking our sponsors. Well, it's always fun to introduce our speakers for the day, and it's a special privilege this morning, partially because Lorene, her daughter, is a senior at TCU in Neely School, so we're excited to have Lorene here. But our special guest is Elaine Agather. And Elaine, as you know, is chairman of Chase's Dallas region. She also serves as the South Region Head and Managing Director of the private bank at JPMorgan. She joined Chemical Bank of New York in 1979, working in London, San Francisco, and New York until she relocated to Dallas in 1984. After the 1986 merger of Chemical and Texas Commerce Bank, Elaine was promoted to chairman of Texas Commerce Bank in Fort Worth in 1992 and joined the private bank to manage client advisory groups across the state in 1997. In 1999, she was elected chairman and CEO of Dallas. Elaine serves in so many important ways in the community. She serves as a board member for the AT&T Performing Arts Center, the National Cowgirl Museum and Hall of Fame, Performing Arts Fort Worth, Fossil, the J.F. Maddox Foundation, and the Southwestern Exposition and Livestock Show. She serves as a member of the Board of Trustees for the Dallas Museum of Art and as a member of the Dallas Citizens Council. Makes me tired reading all those things. So, she's a native of Sherman, Texas. She graduated from the University of Oklahoma with a BA in History and Economics and received her MBA from the University of Texas. She and her husband, Nils, have two daughters, Bradley and Lorraine. Elaine, please join us on stage.
Thank you.
Great. We'll get you all mic'd up and ready to go.
I would know at this point to wear a jacket. Where's my mic?
Sir.
Here we go.
You got it?
Can you hear me?
Everybody okay?
Not really. Can you hear me now?
Great. Okay. Well, let's start off. Why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this business?
You know, I know a lot of you in the room, and so you've heard my background. But for those who don't, I am from Sherman, Texas, and I was a Sherman Bearcat cheerleader, so I just want to get that out. Because it never fails. It's kind of a joke at the bank that there's always somebody from Sherman. So anyway, my dad was a bulldozer operator and did not graduate from the 8th grade. My mother graduated from high school. I was the fourth daughter, and I was much younger than my sisters, so they always encouraged me to do anything. So, I was only the second daughter that went to college. So I went to college, and then I didn't know what to do, and I thought, well, maybe business school. And my dad said, I'm not sure exactly what that is, but that sounds great. I went to business school at Texas, and then I wanted to live in New York. I flew up there. At that time, not one New York institution was interviewing on the University of Texas campus, 1979. Wow. And I got a job. I will not go through the whole thing, but this is important in the beginning. And I got a job offer that day, long blonde hair, big old Texas accent. I cannot believe they hired me, from Chemical Bank. And I said, oh, absolutely, I've always wanted to be a banker. And so that's when you learn early, just, you know, I needed a job, and that's when I decided I wanted to be a banker. And that's how I tell young people, don't overthink it too much, because sometimes you just go with the job. And of course, 33 years later, I'm still here. But the funny part, which just says everything about sort of my parents, I went to a telephone booth. Do any of you young people remember this? And I called collect. Do you remember doing that? And this is something Ann will remember. Remember your parents had to get on, there were two phones, so one had to run to the other phone. Okay. And I said, I got a job offer from Chemical Bank in New York. Now, my parents had never been to New York. And my dad said, well, does this mean you'll stop calling collect?
Great, how cute. You know, times have changed so much. You know, we were talking to one of our grads this week, and he was talking about how our new grads, and like Lorraine's going to be, that they don't even have desks in their dorm rooms. And he got ready to move his daughter out, and he said, well, where's your desk? And she said, I've never had a desk. So they're very different. Right. Tell us about, you have so many different hats that you wear. How do you balance all those responsibilities in the bank?
You know, I think people can spot a fake in 2 seconds. And I think there is no way you can wear a lot of hats if you really don't love doing them. You know, I get asked all the time, surely you don't ride that many grand entries. Really? Because I love it. It kills me if I have a bank meeting and I have to miss one. So this year I rode 29 grand entries. Wow. Not because it's part of the job, it's because I really love it. And I think that balancing becomes easier. Obviously I'm healthy and I love my job and I love working with the people, but balancing is about what you want to do, and you can balance if you really want to do it. I think it's hard when it's something you don't like and you know, then it becomes hard to balance. But it's always challenging. I'm muted? Why didn't somebody speak up when you talk about speaking up in this room? Can you hear me better?
All right.
Could you not hear anything I said? Would you like? I can repeat any story. I cannot believe not one of my bankers spoke up, because like they're like trained to like speak up. Okay.
Exactly.
So anyway, you can hear me now. Okay.
Absolutely.
So what was I saying?
We were talking about, I like riding in the grand entries.
So you balance. I mean, and I think honestly, one thing that in the young people coming into the bank today, and Danny Smith can attest to this, when we came into the bank, part of our job was to be part of the community. I still believe that so intensely, because we give back, you give back, it's part of it. As a banker, you need to be giving back to the community. You know, young people today, they have a lot of things on their plate, and so you have to find something that's interesting to them. It's a little bit different, but they do want to give back. It's just a little different in how you approach it and find it. But I'll tell you what's hard with that is, since '08, you know, bankers are pretty much right there at the bottom, lower than lawyers. Like, you know, it has not been a popular thing in the press. And I was just talking to a colleague here, and it's hard because there's so much good that we do, but the press doesn't want to hear it right now. And so that's challenging, because there is a lot of giving back in the community. Our veterans program, I just got to mention that.
Right.
We have partnered with other corporations to hire 100,000 veterans back in the workforce over the next 10 years. Last year was the first year. We hired 6,691. JPMorgan Chase hired 3,300 of those. Wow. They've got to get back working. A job is so important. And so, but that's just some of the stuff we do, and it's hard because right now it's been tough. Yeah. So.
Well, let's spend a little bit of time talking about that favorite topic of the financial markets.
Okay.
What a tumultuous time we've been in. And so what do you see as we look forward, really in this next year and perhaps beyond? What do you see in the market?
You know, So since I've been in the business 33 years, I do remember the late 80s, and all of us do. And so we remember tough times before. This one was different, and then it's so global, and we are global. And even if you sit in Lufkin, Texas, you're reading about Greece. And so this past problem has been deeper and more intense than I think we've experienced before, especially in our markets. The economy is healing slowly. We all knew it would be slow. I kind of look at it like in three different buckets. There's the government, there's the households, and the corporates. If you look at corporations today, they're doing so well. There's never been as much cash on the balance sheet. They are in great shape. Look at the stock market. We hit 13,000 yesterday. That's just one indicator. You look at households, saving is up. How we got there, there's been a lot of foreclosures. There's been a lot of write-off of credit card debt, but there is slowly some saving, and it takes about 7 to 10 years, really, for that to get back in the right proportion, but the confidence is still low. And when you look at the governments, we're really in a real problem, I think, because in 2013 the Bush tax cuts go away. So, we're all sitting here waiting for November and what will happen. And as the economy gets a little bit better, it looks more like maybe the current president will get it. And so it's a very uncertain time, and confidence still remains low, which keeps us cautious. That's a long answer, but you see some positive signs. And when I talk to business owners, to a person, they all say, my company's doing pretty well. Yeah, but I'm just worried about, and they're always the economy or the uncertainty. And my clients who we manage their money for are worried about zero interest rate, and there's only so long you can sit there with zero interest rates. And so your purchasing power goes away. So there is still a lot of cautious uncertainty. At the bank, we're very cautious. We're optimistic. We think over the next 5 years things are going to be good, but this year we're cautious.
What about this area, this market in North Texas, Texas in general, North Texas? How does it feel?
It has been a bright spot. It has been so much fun to be at this bank, because I was here in the 80s and they were like, well, Texas, oh my gosh. And now it's like we have been the bright spot. You can look at our dashboard from, credit card debt to new housing to jobs. It's amazing, and it just stands out because, Jamie Dimon, our chairman, can see the whole U.S., and it's just been a real positive piece of the U.S. The job growth, which is so key. We all need to be so grateful we live here. To mention something we're all near and dear to our heart, but oil and gas, if we could suddenly be in the next 20 years an exporter, there's a lot of opportunity there. I think the other interesting thing is that we have seen many, and I don't want to exaggerate, but I probably have 8 new clients that have moved here from California. Just packing up, moving. So I think Texas is really well positioned, especially where we are. And y'all know that, but it's nice to see it from our side.
Yeah. Bank regulations. You face those. So do you feel over-regulated, re-regulated, unregulated? How regulated?
So here's sort of a little darkness here, but the pendulum always swings. It was way over here. It was too far. I can remember getting kind of an uneasy feeling about 2006 when someone said, "Well, no, I have a no-doc loan," meaning like no documents, like just a handshake back to the 30s, And I thought, "Ooh, really?" we're doing no doc loans, so it swung way over here. We needed it to swing back, but what happens? It always swings way over here, and we're gonna have to wait till it gets a little regulated again. But the regulators are everywhere. They're living with us. It's going to make our jobs hard, and it's going to make you as a consumer. We're going to have to live with it a little while. We're trying to, do mortgages. Well, as the papers just got thicker, and it's just going to be difficult. The challenge, if I can just, we're not no press here, but it's you would think if you had a pilot flying an airplane, you would get another smart pilot to sit with them. Or if you, there's so many things that are broken, you would get people in to help. Like if you had a legal team and they didn't do the right job, you wouldn't keep the legal team and get another legal team. You'd fire the legal team. These regulations, they won't let any bankers help them write it. So the Dodd-Frank Act is actually going to make some of the big banks bigger. Because when Congress writes it and doesn't get help from some experts, that's been challenging. So there will be regulations that will come and go, and we will live through it, but it's not going to be easy, and everybody's going to feel it. And we'll get through it.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's not good. And, so we can't charge for overdrafts, which, okay, then we're going to find some other place to charge you. So we'll close small banks because we can't make money. It will come out. You can't force it here and not have it affect something. So we'll see that in the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. My guess is when we open up to the audience, might be have more questions about the markets.
Okay.
Let's turn for a few minutes and talk about leadership. And one of your roles as a leader is to be a mentor to other people. So who's been a mentor for you, and how have you mentored people? What do you think about in that arena?
One of the things, and I was reading your questions, and I was talking to one of my colleagues that I work with, who I've worked with a long time, and I said, one thing I love is I've loved helping the young people in the bank. And I know that's because I've been here now. I probably wouldn't have said that if you asked me 30 years ago, because I was a young person in the bank, but now I'm an old person in the bank, and I just love helping these young kids. And I said women, and this was a guy I was talking to. He said, I would not limit that to women. He said, you helped me. He said, I still remember being so mad at you because you told me to stop doing something. And he said, it helped me. And so what I have loved most is mentoring these young kids that come in. And what happens is people need honesty. These young kids come in and no one's told them, your handshake is horrible. Like, seriously? Come on. And so I've, met a young guy or gal, and we've gone over and we've practiced a handshake. I mean, start there. But it takes time and effort and energy to mentor somebody. And to find an honest mentor in your life is a gift that just keeps on giving. Now, a lot of times I think people are my mentors and they probably don't know me. But so you can have mentors you admire, and then you can have up-close mentors, and so I probably have 100. And everybody thinks they hired me. And I've always had several bosses because I've needed many people watching me, over me. And so I always let them think they hired me. And then, you get sponsors and you have people caring about you. And I think that's really important to continue to ask for advice no matter how long you've been there, because people then feel ownership for you and they help you. And you constantly need help. Right? And I can remember, because I grew up in the bank with all these guys that, there were not as many women back in the early 80s. And I learned how to sort of talk like a guy, And by that I mean, they would go, well, where'd you get that tie? Like 1960? I don't know. That's how they talk to each other? Yeah. I loved your tie.
No, my wife bought it for me, so you have to like it.
But that's how how they talk to each other. So I think as a mentor, I learned early, I want your feedback. So I will tell this one quick, because it's a Fort Worth story, but I got to Fort Worth, and it was 1990, and man, I was ready to take it on, and as Danny said, you were very annoying. And so, you know, I found the rodeo quickly, and then I remember, and it was the second or third week, and I walked into the bank, and remember we were in the Tandy Center then, we were TCB then, and I walked into the bank, and I had on a pink, really pink, Escada suit. And we were going to go meet some clients. And I was the new female president of the bank. And a young man who worked for someone who worked for me said, "Oh, God, what do you have on?" And I said, "Well, this is my pink suit." And he said, "Well, it looks like Pepto-Bismol has spilled all over you." He said, "Oh, we cannot, oh, you cannot, no." And his boss is, you know, the guy he reported to was like, looking like this, like, oh. He said, you really will not be taken seriously if we take you out in this pink suit today. He said, now you just got to go put something else on. Now, here's your choice, and I always tell, especially young women this. You can cry and never be told anything honest again the day in your life. Or you can say, you know what, you're probably right, I'll be right back. I went and put on a black suit, we went and made calls, and from then on, there's been nothing held back.
It's too fun.
Because you need the feedback as a mentor. Yeah. And I think that's a real mentor, is to give you that feedback. And then they started naming my outfits, you know. I had a yellow and black. It was a Rambling Wreck from Georgia Tech, you know. So it got to be sport, but it really is important as a mentor, no matter how old you are, young, old, to be able to give each other great feedback, up, down, sideways. It's really everything.
Yeah. It's like my wife gives me a lot of feedback every day. No, so, you know, in Fort Worth, it's been interesting being back here, but for 4 years. Because one of the questions I get asked all the time is fascinating by many of you in this room is, do you hunt? It's like, that never was asked me in Ohio or anywhere else. But I actually say antiques now, but anyway, with it. So what about our students? Any words to our students? You said a little bit. Any more?
Well, you know, we have someone in the crowd that's going to be our summer intern this summer, Rebecca Mack.
Rebecca, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we just hired Rebecca. So we're hiring. We're, you know, always looking. I think it's more competitive than it's ever been, but it's always that way. It always gets more competitive. We obviously look for, and I hesitate to say this, there is a grade point we want to see, clearly, but we look for that attitude. We look for someone who will come in and be ready for whatever that job's going to bring that day. I've been through 10 mergers. You have to expect that it might change again. You have to be ready for change and be able to manage it. And I've told this story a lot, but when I was here, I went to Joe T. Garcia's with my team back in '92 and was sitting at a table having Mexican food, and a waitress walks up and convinces me to eat a praline, and I hate pralines, really hate them. And but she was such a good salesperson. This is a true story, by the way. And I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Well, I went to TCU, and I'm looking for a job." I said, "Well, you need to come see me Monday morning." And my team was going, "Ah." So I said, "Yeah, come on." I said, "Anybody that can sell, she can learn how to sell at the bank." We hired her. She was fabulous. She became like a branch manager. She was great. So we went back to Joe T's the next year. I thought, I'm going to do all my hiring here. You know, you get just a little cocky every now and then. I thought, this is it. So, and again, my team's going, ay, yeah, yeah. Another waitress walks up. Hired her. And this one did not work out so well. She, I'll never forget this. She was and if she's in this room, I'm sure you're fabulous now, but she came in to see me after about 3 weeks and said, I got a problem. I said, oh gosh, tell me, what's your problem? And we were moving out of, we bought First City, and we were moving to the Bass Tower, very excited about it. I had a bunch of boxes in my office. She said, well, you know, they've asked me to help pack the boxes. And I said, and the problem? She said, well, I wasn't hired to pack boxes. And I said, well, I would suggest you go be the best box packer they have ever seen. And then you get all kinds of choices later. But I encourage all of you young people who are interviewing, it changes. You know, you get that job and you run for it because you may be moving the next day or whatever, but they're looking for a leader in whatever job it is. So, and I think I've been very impressed. We've hired a lot of TCU students come and go, and you're doing a great job. Yeah. And I will tell you, one thing we notice is that they can communicate. So whatever this communication in your business school is so important. You know, sometimes we get deaf mute. You know, they're like, they got A's and they can't speak. And I'm like, speak to me. You really don't want to work for me. But you know, I'm like, can you talk? And they can't write. And I will say that I really compliment you guys because you do a great job there. Yeah, the communication's key. Is that good or bad? You're laughing? Okay, good.
Before we get, I know you guys could help us get off script here in a minute. I'm going to ask one off-script question first. Sure. Talk about horses for a second. You love the rodeo, so what do we learn from horses?
Love the rodeo.
15 hands and 18 hand horses, these big creatures.
You know, I think what I love most, I love horses. I don't have a horse. My daughter used to, and she rode. And I love riding a horse, and I'd love to have time someday to ride. What I love most are the people that are on those horses. When I go, it's sort of, and you know, I can say this to this crowd. If I'm in New York, they really don't quite understand the rodeo. They just cannot believe there's a rodeo in the first place down here. But you will understand this. When January hits and I get to go spend time at the stock show, it sort of sets my year. It gets me right with the world because when the Star Spangled Banner plays, and we have ridden in the Grand Entry and we're backstage, everybody stops. It is like Middle America, the respect for the country and the city and the people. Everybody stops and puts their hand on their heart until that Star Spangled Banner is over. And backstage is busy, but it's just this moment, and I think, wow, I'm so lucky to be right here. And I think that has made me love the whole piece of it.
Yeah. And my son lives in New York, works for a bank in New York City, and when he was here last year for the rodeo, we went to, he loved it. And he said, okay, we have to go buy boots now. So we spent 3 hours in this Justin Boot outlet. I said, there's like, you don't have to look at every pair of boots in the entire place with that, but he proudly wore his Texas boots back to New York City. So, so it's very cool. So let's open up the audience. What kind of questions do you have for Elaine? Yes.
I'm in the merchant services industry, and I know that the Durbin Amendment, I'm sure you're familiar with that. The Durbin Amendment. I was just curious about how on the on the issuing side of credit cards, how that's affected your profits, and what do you guys intend to do to offset the lack of the income that's caused in your environment?
So I don't really understand it that well. I do know that our credit card business has, suffered, and we have over the past couple of years, but right now we're looking stronger than ever. So I don't know. I don't know if any of my bankers, do you know the Durbin Amendment? Where are you in the merchant business?
Well, I'm a small independent contractor that represents a number of processors, and it's obviously they've capped the amount of money that you guys can and make on
Yeah.
debit cards. And from my aspect, it's actually increased my business. But I know from your side of things, I know a lot of the larger banks, it's really, there's been, billions of dollars in losses for Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, et cetera. So
Yeah.
I was wondering how you
And,
guys are
and,
handling
and I think, as I said before, we're going to have to live with that, and we'll figure out another way to make more money. But call us if you ever need a job.
My wife actually works for Bank of America.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh.
On the screen.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you have an idea or I guess more an opinion of how long is it going to take to clean up the mortgage mess?
That's interesting. He asked how long it would take to clean up the mortgage mess. We actually, I was just at a conference where Jamie Dimon was speaking, our chairman. He thinks, looking at all of it, it's hitting bottom. You don't really see it because we still have foreclosures, but he thinks we're sort of at bottom for a while. So, we've got 3 million people a year coming into the U.S. That's a lot of new houses. So, over the next 3 or 4 years, we're going to see this thing start to come back. We've got you've stopped on the building. We're hitting bottom, and you've got a lot of new people, and so we think 3 or 4 years. But it was positive that we're starting to see on the foreclosures, I thought this was an interesting statistic. We have JPMorgan has a whole, huge facility in Louisville that just modifies, like 1,000 people, modifies mortgages and tries to help people not at foreclosures. We stopped 766,000 foreclosures last year, working with people trying to keep them in their homes, because we don't want, obviously, the houses. And one thing we are doing with our foreclosures is giving them to wounded vets, so when we do have the houses. So we're trying to put this equation together. At the end of the day, got a lot of debt in our country and not enough jobs yet, and end of the day, that's what we got to work on.
Yeah, so we so often tend to say it's a financial services industry. It's not. That's the problem. Goes well beyond that. It's getting that ground framework, if you will, for people that have jobs, have the ability to buy that first home or second home.
And one thing on the emerging market, I thought this was a fascinating statistic just to think about. So in Asia, the emerging market, the middle class, we're starting to see a huge middle class. And so from the projections are 500 million today to 2.5 billion people in Asia over the next 20 years will move into middle class. That means that they have enough money for food and housing, and they're going to be buying watches and iPads and stuff. Yeah. And someone reminded us that we've experienced that. When you think about your grandmother who there was not a plane, and as as today our grandmothers are on iPads. So it's interesting the opportunity we see in some of that growth that will help bring us out of this, because they are spending and they'll be building.
Question? Yeah.
Elaine, what is your biggest professional disappointment and how did you get through it?
My biggest professional disappointment and how did I get through it? Well, I'm sure it has been in the mergers. I think the one merger, there's always disappointments. I had great advice. I've had so many great mentors, but I had great advice because one time I can't remember which, Chase just bought JPMorgan. But right before that, I had Chicago and this big territory. And I had put my red suit on and gone to Chicago and met everybody, and the merger comes. And all bets are off. I don't know what I have. And I was getting on a plane. We all had these moments, but it doesn't matter if you're 50-something, you can still have these moments. I was getting on the plane because I'd been invited to the big meeting between JPMorgan and Chase, and my cell phone rings. And it's my boss, who's no longer there, I just want to say. And he says, what are you doing? I said, getting on the plane, come to see you. He said, you've been uninvited. I said, okay. Now here are my choices. You can puff up. You ever seen anybody puff up? Yeah. It's not pretty. And so you can puff up, or I said, well, I'm on the plane. I'm going to get my hair cut, and if dinner opens up, I'm free. I made him laugh, and I got invited to dinner, and I didn't get Chicago, but I got Florida. And so, which was fine. There are moments when you have these choices where you can be really disappointed, or maybe bring a little humor into it and know that, it'll pass. And it did. And there are countless times like that when you go, oh, I've been uninvited. But it's this balance, this evening of, let me go focus on business. And I'll tell you what's helped me with these disappointments, because there have been numerous ones like that in these mergers. They always say, who's the blonde? Seriously. And then, clients. If I can be with clients, if I can focus on the business, it makes all the other stuff so much better. Just go with a client and help them with whatever, their business, their money, their mortgage, their kids, helping. We just did a mortgage for someone's kid the other day, and he said, this means more to me than anything you've ever done, because the rate was so low, And so I think that has helped me with some of the disappointments.
I hear you just speaking through integrity and authenticity. Isn't that such a key characteristic for leaders?
Yes.
I think it's just,
leadership is, it's so many different styles, and I think that's where people, think, oh, is there one style or not? I think at the end of the day, if you are not living it, if you're just managing up and, you're mean to the valet guy, you can never really be an authentic leader. And I think arrogance absolutely kills you. I think, part of what has helped me all these years is that I'm so grateful to have this job. I'm from Sherman, Texas. You know my background. How could I be here? So I think when you meet people that are grateful, it makes that easier when they're yelling at you, telling you to go do something, because they'll do it too. Yeah. You've got to. Leadership it's a servant leadership, and I really believe in that, because I'm the first to get up and serve food or cookies. It's serving, and I feel that way about my clients. We're here to serve them, and with that, then I don't think you can let arrogance creep in there.
Yeah, that's that level 5 Jim Collins leader.
That's right.
Other questions? Yes.
As a woman, how did you succeed in a male-dominated industry?
Please let them answer. I'm kind of neuter, It's kind of like I'm a girl, and I dress like a girl, but I'm kind of like a guy because I really like working with these guys all these years, and I kind of talk like one. So I'm kind of, it's like I always love to be with the wives, but I do like to hunt. So I think I have learned to kind of go both ways, if you will, and I don't mean that any other way than that. I just mean I'm sort of, so that's a silly answer, but I will tell you honestly, I think it's just about, I've got so lucky being at an organization that believed in meritocracy and said, if you can do the job, do it. I don't care if you're black, blonde, short, tall, if you didn't go to Harvard, if you went to, where you're from, can you do the job, and can you make us money, and can you grow this business? And I think honestly, from the first chairman we had, Walter Shipley, he had 4 daughters. And he ran, and he said, if you can do the job, then you got it. And I think that has helped me a lot, not worry about if I was, in fact, I can't remember a time that it was because she was a woman or not. It's, what are your numbers? So. Yes, sir.
What advice would you give us college students, sophomores, juniors, seniors, who are on the threshold of entering the real business world?
What advice would I give you going into the business world? Well, a little bit of what I said, be ready and a great attitude. And you may get there and they may say, oh my goodness. See, I was there 2 weeks in New York and they said, my boss called me in. I thought, he has figured out I know nothing and is firing me. It scared me to death. It was 2 weeks, New York, 1979, prime rate was 23%. And I said, yes, sir. He said, you're here and you started in October, and actually we have a training program in London. Could you go to that? I said, I swear I said this. I said, England? I cannot imagine what I don't know. But anyway, I said, you bet. And I had just rented an apartment. So my point is, be ready. You'll figure it out. So many times I will see young people say, I don't really know anything about, oil, talking themselves out of the job, oil and gas. Well, yeah, you can pump it in your car. You'll figure it out. Go learn it.
Right.
Just take that risk. And I think being a little bit of a risk taker is key. And by standing up and asking a question, I know you've got it. So you're going to be great.
I want to learn something more about the financial markets, but I want to give you a chance. Any questions about that?
I'm a small business owner. What's it going to take economically for the banks to be able to be a little more generous with lending?
It's so frustrating when we hear this question because we want to lend, we're trying to lend. I think there's, and I come from a big bank viewpoint, but when we look at our loans, just the statistics, we're up. But I think it's going to take growth in our country, and I think it's going to take confidence coming back where we can get these regulators to loosen up, and because so many banks are worried about their ratios, their equity, internally. And they're not focused on the small business owner, and that's what's going to pull us out of here. It always has. And I say small and large. I mean, the growth has got to come from business, and the government has got to understand that we pay the taxes. And so I think it's going to be banks feeling more confident, small and big, and I think it's going to be the administration getting settled either way, because I continually hear people unsure about building a plant or doing something new until they know what November's going to look like. But if you need any help, we are right here.
When you look at this region, the North Texas region, I think it's fascinating since Dallas and Fort Worth and Irving,
right.
Many Dallases. How do you put those together? Are we a metroplex, or are we 8 different cities? Or
that's a great question. I want to answer one
Sure.
more thing. The other thing I'm seeing, sir, and I'm sorry I don't know your name, but we're seeing a lot of mezzanine debt companies or funds start to form because the banks are not there anymore, and that's been a real sort of vacuum. And so we're seeing a lot of people trying to fill that void, non-banks. So that'll be interesting to see. There's always opportunity, and someone comes in and starts making these loans.
Yeah.
So I, from a business standpoint, we look at this region together. Mm-hmm. When New York looks at Texas, and they do not say, oh, well, that's Arlington, isn't it? They look at how North Texas is doing. I think our individual strengths make the whole stronger. And I think because I travel it so much, back from Dallas to here to there, it's amazing the strengths we have that we should be celebrating because it will bring new people in continually. When you look at it as a whole, we've got it all. We've got everything. And I think when you try to separate it up and divide it and just you know, and it's because I've been through so many mergers.
Sure.
That when you bring it together, you get 2 + 2 = 10. But if you say, no, this is mine and this is yours and don't cross over here, I think collaboration is the key for our future. I think we need to become the hub for the South, this huge metroplex. That means we have to work together. It doesn't mean we have to become the same. It doesn't mean we have to call it one city, but we have to collaborate. And I think collaboration, because I've seen it in my own businesses for 33 years, the people who survived these mergers, the people, the ability to say, listen, I've got this and you've got that. Should we figure out how to do it together? It's critical. And when you see sort of territorialism, it'll kill you. And not good territory, not pride, but the stuff that I don't want to show you what I got. Because if you can, then you end up in a better place. So,
Other questions?
I appreciate all of you having breakfast with me this morning.
Absolutely. It's been wonderful.
It's nice to see a lot of old faces.
I want to ask one more.
I mean, not old, but
There's some of those too.
old, good friends.
One more question I want to ask, and then we'll
Yeah.
wrap up for today. Every morning you get up, you're excited and happy, and how come?
Excited. Happy, you know, sometimes.
So, yeah.
Why?
You have this because you glow. And what is it that makes you glow? Every time I've seen you, you have that glow. What is it that makes that happen? I don't see your work, but say
What is it? I don't know.
Nice husband.
Oh, my nice husband.
There we go.
Thank you. And my daughters. It's my family.
There you go. That's a great answer.
I always forget to mention my family, and they're fabulous. Why do I do that on stage? It's like those Oscars, and they thank you, and then they go, oh, my wife. I have a fabulous husband, like fabulous. I'll tell you the story. I met him real quick. He sat in front of me at Chemical Bank and had a girlfriend and talked to his girlfriend the whole time, and I thought, I'm working. But this guy's on the phone with his girlfriend. Anyway, so that's how we met. And we got rid of the girlfriend. And so he is fabulous. And he met me at the bank, and he always said the bank was my first husband because he knew how much I loved it. And so we've been a great partnership. And, of course, I have 2 fabulous daughters. And that's why I'm happy and excited every morning.
Every day. Sounds good. We are so lucky to have Elaine and Agather with us this morning.
Thank you.
And to have us as a business leader for this great state and this great area.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much
and
for being
again,
here. So,
compliments to TCU and the business school.
Yeah.
It's really, 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 really impressive. And go purple, and we love TCU. Okay.
thank you again.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Please join us again this spring. Actually, I didn't bring the day, April, whatever date. We'll get the word out to you. We have Bluebell Ice Cream, Paul Cruz coming in. So maybe we'll serve ice cream for breakfast. Who knows? So we'll see you then. Thank you. So.